Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. So today we'll be talking Star Wars Visions, and I'm going to split this video up into two parts because there's a lot of content that I would like to cover. I never did a Star Wars Visions review, and I'm still not going to today. However, in part one of this video, I'm going to spend some time talking about my favorite 3 or 4 shorts and pull out what I liked about them and which aspects I think should be used for future Visions content. In part 2, which you can skip to if you're not interested in my reviews, I'm going to talk about the likelihood of future Star Wars Visions content and what I think could be improved upon and the lessons learned from this first foray into this kind of non-canon content. So with that being said, let's start with part 1. Again, you can use the timeline down below to skip around. So, I really liked Star Wars Visions generally. I liked it because it was a chance for people who don't ordinarily get to work on Star Wars to work within the universe. Now, unfortunately, some of these stories felt like missed opportunities. I'm going to talk about that later. But the ones that I like most brought something new, either thematically or artistically, or they at least expressed classic Star Wars ideas in somewhat of a different way. My favorite episode perhaps was the first one, The Duel, and I think this was the case for a lot of people. The Duel was just absolutely stunning visually. I was entranced when I watched this. I really like how classic Star Wars designs were creatively incorporated into a different setting, and some of the shorts tried to do this and failed. Like, it's one thing to have the lightsaber be a katana, obviously that's different, but I mean, that's also kind of surface level. What I really liked about The Duel is that it took this to the max and everything was sort of fundamentally grounded in this different universe, which was really cool. For me, this was the only episode really that, based on its pure aesthetics, I think was really, really great. And I'll compare it to The Twins, which just didn't do it for me. The other episode I really loved was The Village Bride. Unlike The Duel, which took Star Wars and really changed it in an artistic sense, it examined classic Star Wars themes like the Force and how it connects everyone, but through a different type of story. I really liked how the episode slowed down. It really focused on nature and the people living on the planet, and I thought that worked super well, and that's something that you won't ordinarily get from Star Wars storytelling mediums. And I will say, I'm also going to throw Lop and Ocho into this. I loved that one as well. Lop and Ocho was definitely the surprise hit of the series for me. The animation was beautiful, I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit thrown off by the main character's design, but the cityscapes were incredible. And again, Lop and Ocho explored themes of the Skywalker saga, like family and found family in particular, tradition versus imperialism. I thought it was all very, very interesting. I was going to actually talk about 5 because I also really liked The Ninth Jedi. I liked that one because it was really just a different Star Wars story in an anime format rather than an anime with some Star Wars bits slapped on, like I feel like some of the others may have been. That's pretty much the same case for The Elder. I think The Elder, more than any other entry, fits seamlessly into the universe. You could make The Elder basically canon if you wanted to without having to really mess with anything too much, and that was interesting. So those are the episodes that I really liked, and that's over half, so that's pretty good. The other 4 definitely didn't hit in the same way for me. I'm not going to claim that they're objectively bad or anything, but if I were in charge of the Visions label moving forward, there are lessons that I think you could learn. First of all, though, let's talk about the possibility of there being more Vision stories. This is the start of the part 2 of this video. And will there be more Visions? I think almost certainly yes, there will be. The site Murphy's Multiverse, which I'll link down below, had a very interesting article with a Lucasfilm executive named James Waugh, and this is the quote that has been going around the internet. So much of the stuff you see in Visions, the specificity of anime as a medium justifies a lot of the storytelling. Do I think we could see more non-timeline storytelling? I think under the Visions framework, absolutely. There's a certain joy in having celebratory content that is removed from the gravitas of the canon. We'll have to see what the fandom wants. First of all, I think that second to last sentence there really has a lot of truth to it. Removing these stories from the gravitas of the canon gives you a lot of room to work with, and I think for a lot of these stories, the payoff was pretty obvious. He also notes specifically under the Visions framework, kind of suggesting to me that Visions is probably going to be a thing and that it will be more than just this first let's call it a season of content. Star Wars Visions could be a label under which non-canon stories are released. I think that makes total sense. He also says we'll have to see what the fandom wants. Obviously, I haven't seen Disney's internal numbers, but from everything I saw, the response to Visions was great. I mean, everyone was talking about it on release day. I saw very few people, even those who didn't like a bunch of the episodes, who were unhappy that it was made, and more content like this can only help, and it also helps expand Star Wars to a new audience. When it came to The Ninth Jedi, we also saw the team saying that the continuation of the story is something that they would like to see, but that's up for the audience to decide. So maybe it's even possible that Disney or Lucasfilm has discussed the possibility of continuing these stories. We do know that Ronin is coming out. That's a book which will continue the story started in The Duel. And yeah, I don't think this is anything but good. Star Wars is such a rich universe, and it has been relatively limited in the type of stories told, and that's sort of the promise of Visions. That's what I would like to see more of. And who knows, you get them real comfortable with non-canon stuff, maybe we start getting more Star Wars legend stories eventually as well. When I first heard of Star Wars Visions though, and this is where I want to discuss what I think the future could hold, my mind immediately went to the 2003 Clone Wars series. I know they tried to make that canon, but for me, the importance of that was more as a different way to see the universe. I fell in love with the 2003 Clone Wars series because I had never seen anything like it in Star Wars. It was fundamentally the same universe, but expressed in a completely different way in that Samurai Jack style that a lot of people really came to appreciate. And if you watch the 2003 Clone Wars, it drops a lot of the story and the lore in favor of spectacle. I'll never forget the first time I saw the episode where Mace Windu destroys the droid smasher, and I never tried to fit that into any sort of lore continuity, and it was difficult to do so after the later Clone Wars show came out. So with Visions existing now, I think that's the kind of thing that I would like to see more of. And there's a difference, I think, between the kind of content that works really well under this banner and the kind of content that I think is not really reaching the full potential that it could. Some of these stories to me felt like they were basically a story that was pre-written with a lightsaber or some slight veneer of Star Wars added on top. I mean, arguably you could say that was the case for The Duel, but for me, because it was at least thoughtfully done, not really. But Akakiri, for example, didn't feel like Star Wars to me, and it didn't feel like they were doing anything meaningful with their having the availability of the universe. Instead, it was like, now we have a lightsaber that we can give the main villain, and instead of talking about general power or whatever mysticism would have been in the series anyway, we can use the Force as a stand-in. And I guess it was really Akakiri that did that more than any other. The rest of them were pretty on brand, but another problem that I had was that a lot of these ultimately told stories that were pretty simple. Many of them were adaptations of samurai stories or other sort of Eastern mythology, which is really cool, and it makes sense because these studios were not working together. They each developed their own story, and this is what they wanted to tell. And I think that's totally cool. However, in the future, what I would like to see alongside that is closer to what we got in Tatooine Rhapsody, in fact. I didn't necessarily love that episode. I don't think I was the prime target demographic, but that episode was more than any well sort of situated in the Star Wars universe. I would have loved to see an episode about smugglers, or about a starfighter pilot, or about life on Coruscant, but told in a different way. I don't watch anime, but I know there are a variety of animation styles, there are a variety of storytelling techniques. That is what I would hope to see in the future when we get more Star Wars Visions. And the 2003 Clone Wars series, one of those initial shorts, for example, is something that I think could have fit perfectly under the Visions banner. Like, imagine if that never came out. If we had gotten the fight between Anakin and Ventress as a short, that would have been amazing. So while I think it's always good to have some of the stories that we largely saw in Visions, where it's kind of an existing story modified for Star Wars, I would also sort of like to see the inverse, where it's the Star Wars universe modified with these tropes or these different storytelling techniques or these different perspectives. I'd say the best example of that, what I really liked, was The Elder. I also mentioned Tatooine Rhapsody. Arguably the Twins is there too, but for me, that one just was a little too surface level. The animation and the spectacle didn't really do it for me either. But guys, that's all for me. I hope you had a great night. Until next time, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.